Welcome to this week's video for Explore. And this week, in week 2, we've been focusing on observation, and we've looked at the idea of using photos as embellishments rather than just pre-made or paper elements. So I'm just going to walk you through a few different ideas for that, and then later in the video talk about some different page topics if nothing has really jumped out at you this week that you want to get in your album. And we're going to look at different ways you can construct a page using the different things that we talked about this week. So first of all, looking at photos as embellishments rather than pre-made. So I just picked 4 photos that I took on the same day in the same place. This was an alleyway full of all sorts of different graffiti. And I took probably 100 pictures, but I've just pulled 4. And I can see from these 4 that 2 of them are probably going to work quite well as 4x6 prints, and the other 2 not so much. This one, there's something about the atmosphere here that's lost and it doesn't look quite as artistic. This one looks a bit more vandalized rather than painted on purpose. And this one I'm just not quite sure reads as well. And I'm not even sure which way it's meant to go. And so I like these 2 as a whole picture better than these 2. So I'm going to use these 2 pictures as embellishments and leave these as 4x6 prints. So I'll just set that aside and then look at some different options for these. And one of the first things that I tend to do if I have a full print that I want to turn into an embellishment is grab basic punches in squares and circles. And what I'm going to do is see if I can get something that will fit a tag. So I have this tag, which actually either of those would fit. So I'm going to go ahead and punch just a square from one of these photos. So I'm just looking for things that will fit together. So this tag, the tag happens to be a good size for that punch. So I will add just a little bit of ink. And at this size you can almost get a TTV effect just by using black ink on an applicator with a bit of foam, because it will fade in at the edges. So I can just add that and go ahead and adhere that to the bottom of the tag. This way around. There is a little butterfly on there that looks like it needs to be going that direction. And then I'll add a little bit of brown shading to the tag itself. And then in the process of the layout, I'll add more here and probably something around and underneath. But this is just to get a start on something that would be an embellishment. And then I also want to look at some options with circles. So I have these circle tags with metal edges. And I'm just going to grab a circle punch and come over to this picture. Sometimes you need to cut a little bit off the photo to get into the spot you want to punch. And again, I'll add some black ink. That will start the embellishment, and then I'll add some more layers to that. One of the ideas we discussed this week was the idea of starting with some photos and some embellishments and working outward from the layout so that the background paper is the very last thing that you add to the page. So I'm going to walk you through this layout, and I haven't planned this in advance. I'm going to go ahead and see where the designs take me and talk you through my process as I go. So this is what I'm starting with, the 2 circle tags that I've cut with the the photos with the punch, and then one with the square, and 2 4x6 prints. So I just started with a few little supplies. Haven't constructed anything that's an actual full page or anything yet. I pulled out this sheet of stickers, which I've had for a while, but I've never used because I think the bright colors are what drew me to this. Obviously, there's no real floral pattern, so the pattern of the stickers themselves doesn't match. But maybe this would be the right kind of layout to use that much color. So we'll see if those go anywhere. A couple border strips, one in quite a bright green and one in just a plain gray with a bit of a faux stitching there. And then 2 colors of, 2 pattern papers that are just small pieces. So this green with a little swirl and blue with a dotted stripe. I'm going to see where I can go from there. The first thing I want to do is add another layer to these circles. So I'm going to cut a pinked circle that's larger than the tag, and then I'm going to work with those with the border. When I cut the pinked circles, I found that the circle is quite big compared to the tag, so I went ahead and cut a blue plain circle to go inside that will just let the tag sit on top of there with a very small blue border. So I've inked these edges in brown. I'm going to go ahead and adhere all these pieces. I may end up thinking I need 3 of these because I tend to work in groups of 3 embellishments. It's quite easy to work that way. So we'll start with 2 and see how it goes. You can always make a 3rd. And then what I'm thinking is layering these so they're just offset of the circle, like that. And maybe this one. Now, I know I want to put these 2 photos together, so I'm going to go ahead and choose a color of cardstock just to mat them, not for the background yet, but just to go around those 2. And actually, I think no, this pattern paper is not quite big enough. Okay, so I need a little bit more than that. Actually, I think I'll go with white, which isn't an obvious choice for me. I don't always use white, but I will give it a try. So I'm just going to put these 2 together on one mat. So now I have this piece which is a bit easier to work with, and we'll see if that white mat then means that it's a bit more versatile where I can go in different color schemes from here, but I was thinking the white would match with what's on the tags. So I'm thinking something like this, and I'm going to work in these border strips and then also put in this square tag too. Thinking I'll run that straight across there, and then this maybe will go to the edge of the page. I'm just going to cut that straight, and this is a sticker, so I'm going to go ahead and, I think, is it? Yes. Go ahead and adhere this. With digital photos, you can go ahead and make little risks like this by going ahead and sticking things on, because if it goes wrong, you can always just print it again. So I'm thinking this will be the center of the embellishment. I'm going to add a bit more there, and then I'll have, maybe I don't need a 3rd circle, I'll just have this one with a tiny little bit on this side. And at the moment I'm not thinking I need the gray. I'll save that for something else. And perhaps layer this in here. Yeah. but I need some other bits in here, so I'm going to go to my die cut bowl. I think that's enough for the moment. So now I need to figure out how all of this can come together. See, I have a feeling I've gone way over the 12-inch width of the page. This is the danger of this technique. So I really have, so that's my 12-inch mark. That's okay. Alright. So I won't worry about this one for the moment, but I do need to bring this embellishment in a bit. And this gives me some place to add the title. I think I'm going to go ahead and adhere this so that this is an element that I can work with. This is all adhered now, and I can work with this, and I know that I'm pretty much at the 12-inch width of the page, so I can't add anything on this side that doesn't overlap the photo. But of course I can add other elements that aren't attached here, but I mostly want to keep it all together here. I'm thinking that this will need something in the center, but I'm also going to build the title around here. I think I'm going to go with a very short title in some bold letters. I'm just going to go look at my alphabets and see where I can find that would go. I have this sheet here, which has 4 different alphabet styles, but all in a coordinating color scheme. So I think I'm going to use 2 of these different lettering types and add my title right here. I ended up using 3 different types of letters all from the same sheet, 2 for the title and then 1 also for the location. And from here, I think I need to add something a bit thicker, a bit of paper that's going to go underneath here. So I'm going to come back to that blue pattern paper. This is what I used here in the circle, but I haven't used it anywhere else. And I'm going to cut a piece that will fit underneath here. So this is how far I've gone so far. I've found a way to cluster these embellishments and add the title and some more lettering. And then I've added a few blocks of pattern paper just behind this whole piece, so some blue and then some green. I thought there was there's quite a lot of green here, so the blue block will separate and break that color up, and then I can repeat the green there. And I added in some little sparkles here where there was a bit of a gap at the bottom of the photo and just felt like it needed something, and I could match that color to the gem that was already in those little flowers. So I do have some pieces that I had pulled out originally and didn't use. I'm just going to put them back in with my die cuts. And now I think I'm ready to look for a background color. So I've pulled out 3 different options. I'm going to see how they would look. I use craft backgrounds a lot, so that's the first thing I'm going to try. But I actually think in this case, there's not enough depth of the color here. These colors are all quite, the shades are all quite equal. Like there's not like a really bright blue or a really dark blue or green. They're all quite those nice medium spring tone type shades. And so is Craftly. It's not a really light shade, but it's also not a dark brown. So everything is a little bit too much in between for my liking. So I'm not so keen on the craft in this instance. Option 2 is a vanilla cardstock or a cream color. But I am not a big fan of mixing white with cream. It's very rare that it works for me. So I don't think this is the right color either. And then I decided I could pull one of these colors that's already there, but they're all there at the edge, so that would be like green on a green and blue on a blue. So I thought maybe go for something that would be a little bit of a contrast, and I pulled this yellow. I think I like this one the best, even though it's a little bit of a shock in comparison because it's a bit brighter. But I think that's a nice contrast where these are those nice muted colors. This is a bit, it's not neon or anything, but it is a bit brighter than what's already there. This is also one of those embossed cardstocks where you can sand part of it away to reveal a bit of white underneath, and I think that will work well. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to this cardstock background and then just add a couple little details to finish the layout. I'm just going to line this up with the edge of the page. And that looks pretty straight, so go ahead and press that all down. Now I do have this additional flower that I started with and I haven't included. I think it's too much to put it here and have this be so much of a grouping. And I'm not really keen on it up here. I thought perhaps I kind of like this placement here, and it means I'll have to cut off part of the embellishment because it's going to go across the top of the page. But I think I quite like that, and then I'll bring a little bit of this blue pattern paper back in. So I think I'll cut a stripe. Let's see, I had this pattern going that way. I'll cut a stripe of this that can just go right up here behind that embellishment. And I'll add some brown ink to make that match all those other pieces. I actually want this shorter than these photos, so I want to see how it's widest here. Kind of want it to narrow out, so I'm just going to cut this a little bit shorter. That's a bit better. And then this flower will go here, and I'm just going to line up, the flower will be where I cut the top of the tag. I'm just going to put a little more adhesive on that than normal because when I go to cut the tag it will probably start to come off the page. So then just turn this over and cut along this line here. And don't use your detail scissors to cut through the metal edge of the tag. And there we go. I use a bigger pair of scissors, and I always, if I'm going to cut through the metal, I cut through as far up the scissors as possible because the detail work comes down here at the edge, and that way it's a bit stronger there. And I'll just add a little bit of ink to that top edge so it looks a bit more like it's meant to be there. Then I'm going to add my journaling here, and I waited to add that because I wanted to have a little bit more than would just fit on these cards. I want to start it here on the background. And it definitely needs a little something here. So I'm thinking I will use these letter stickers for the date and possibly put that on a label and put that right there. And I'm going to sand off a little bit of this yellow cardstock. I can show you that. I just grab my file. So just file off the top color. And it comes up in the lighter shade. There we go. And I'll just do that, I think I'll just do that in these two corners. And the more you file, the more dramatic the color contrast is. I don't want it to be really, really dramatic and distressed. I just want a little bit of difference in those two corners because there's not much embellishment or anything else there on the cardstock. There you go. So I'm going to add journaling here and then a journaling label here with the date, and that's my layout from the wrong direction. So I started here and worked out instead of starting with my background cardstock first. If you haven't given this a try yet, it's something I would suggest trying. It does make you think about how your page comes together in a different way, and you'll see whether or not the style of your layout changes in the end.